Welcome to Spartan Strong in 3. With me today I have Jim Craycraft, and Jim has been in education for 52 years and has been a superintendent for 28 years. And Jim and I came together when I was an administrator at Elgin, and I had the pleasure of working with him during the time of that campaign when we were building the K-12 facility there. And because of the nature of what we're doing here in our district with the two issues of the bond issue and the 1% earned income tax, I thought it made sense to connect with Jim and ask him his thoughts regarding the two issues and what's the information that he thought we needed to make sure that we communicated to our public so that they could make an informed decision in November. So, Jim, you've listened, I know, to a lot of the information and have been a part of the Pleasant community now for quite some time. And so, as you look and listen, what are some of the key pieces of information that you think are critical?
I've always been one to look at the data. I stay away from emotions. I think people try to stay away from the emotions and look at the facts.
Okay.
And so over my 20 years being superintendent, I think I've had anywhere from 12 to 13 issues on the ballot. And I find that the one thing that the people want to know are the facts.
Sure.
And once they know the facts, they'll make the right decision. And so when I look at the documents that the Pleasant has produced,
Yes.
which is a full document of all the facts relating both these issues, there's some things that I see that are really critical. Regarding the building issue, I try to relate a lot to the high school facilities.
Sure.
The high school facilities are a group of engineers and education people who have been involved with the building of new facilities for probably 20 some years, if not longer. And to rely on their expertise is really important. When you look at the data as it relates to the Pleasant School District, it's very clear that our buildings are in dire need of either total repair or total replacement. And I noticed a couple of the things that's involved with what the school facilities was that it actually is going to cost us more, cost the taxpayers more to repair the buildings than it is to replace the buildings.
It is. The OFCC's information shares that for us to repair the schools, all three of them, because they all 3 as you said,
Sure.
qualify, it would cost our taxpayers $35 million. And for us to build new for a K-12 facility, and that also includes putting in money for locally funded initiatives, or as OFCC calls LFIs, it's $34 million. So,
Well,
right.
and one of the things that you realize is the 34 million is voted on right now, and it remains 34 million.
Correct.
If we have to go back and repair, that 35 million is going to increase just simply because of inflation.
Sure.
And so the 35 is like the minimum amount of money that it'll take to repair all the buildings and bring them up to current standards. And I think that's one of the things people sometimes don't understand is that everything is based on what current standards are.
Sure.
And that's how you need to replace the buildings if you're going to do that. If you're going to repair the buildings, that's what you're going to do. So it's really important to look at those numbers to see, well, what is the long-term cost? Well, the long-term cost to build new buildings is really going to be the best deal. And the other thing that's part of this is the repair on the buildings.
Okay.
That with the high school facilities legislation, that when you pass a bond issue, you also pass money to go into a fund that totally repairs that building if it's needed.
Sure.
So based on that information, once the buildings are built, there's technically no more money that's going to have to go from your general fund to repair that new building. You have a fund that is sitting there that is to be used only for repair of that new facility as the buildings age.
And I think I've heard that from our taxpayers that when we first started all of this, of the state giving money, there wasn't that fund set aside, and some districts got themselves into trouble because they didn't have that. And now the OFCC requires that you put that $500,000 for permanent improvement levies that goes through the life of the bond.
Yeah, it really makes a lot of sense.
Sure does.
There are school districts that were in southeast Ohio when this whole process started would go ahead and pass a bond issue, and then after 10 years, 15 years of that new building, that it needs repair, and they had no money to repair it. And so the buildings would sit there and just age and need repair, and there's no money. So they went ahead and made that additional law, and that was a great deal. That was a great
smart.
idea for the schools. That was a smart idea to put money in there that can only be used to repair the new building if need be. So that was a good deal.
I know, Jim, I've heard you talk about that per pupil spending and how that's critical and what it says about your district. Would you share a little bit about your experience with that?
I think that all the times I've ever been a school superintendent, I've been a school superintendent on, I think, 6 or 7 school districts. And I never went after the idea that we need to be above the other districts. I think we need to be competitive.
Sure.
That we need to be competitive with our school buses. We need to be competitive with compensation to all of our staff, whether it be bus drivers or teachers or administrators.
Sure.
That is really critical. You want to keep your staff.
Right.
And that is. And I've looked at some of the reports that the state produces, and one of them is called the CUP report.
Okay.
And when you study that at length, you find out that there are many teachers that are hired by the Pleasant District that only stay here for 4 or 5 years, because then the school districts to the south will hire them because they can make a lot more money there.
Sure.
And so you want to try to make sure that you provide a competitive salary for those people so that they will stay in your district and not just get hired and then leave right after it. When you also look at the amount of money that is on a per pupil average, the Pleasant District is considerably lower than the other districts in our area, either the districts in our county, the districts in our league, the districts in a 7-county area around us, because we end up competing against schools in our county, schools in the 7 counties around us, and we're close enough to Columbus that we have to compete against Columbus.
Absolutely.
And so because of that, we have to constantly be in mind that we need to compete with those school districts. To exceed would be great, but I think we first need to compete, and we're not.
Unfortunately, you're right. We are $3,200 less than the state average. And our budget is definitely showing that. We've been able to stay afloat for 22 years because the last time we had new money was in 1996. And we kind of laugh because Joe Robinson, one of our teachers, says, that's when I graduated high school, and he's been in education now for 18 years. And so that shows that we've been doing a good job of fiscally managing our money. And what's helped us with that is our open enrollment dollars. That's really helped keep us afloat. But after 22 years, our budget is saturated. We've tried to avoid buying buses, but unfortunately, as you know, you have to be able to put buses on the roads. And a bus is $92,000. And so last year, when 2 of our buses didn't pass inspection, we didn't have a choice and had to do that. And as a result of that, we've just started entering into deficit spending.
And not only buying buses.
Sure.
You have to pay the electric bill.
Right.
You have to put roofs on the buildings. All of those different things cost money, and all of those prices continue to go up. I can remember that the first buses I bought when I was superintendent were about $25,000, and I think now they're approaching probably $80,000, $90,000.
$92,000, yes.
A piece. Well, that just, you can't make it.
Right.
And at some point, the community needs to say, we need to start looking to the future. Yes, it's unfortunate that both issues have to be on at the same time, but the need is there. And the operating levy, I mean, I've been associated with this. You get to the point that even if it doesn't make it this time, it'll be back on.
Yes.
We don't have a choice.
Right.
And
we don't have the luxury of not.
And so because of that, it's really important to look at the facts and make the decision that you feel is right for the community, and at least based on what the board has analyzed, what's in all the documents and all the facts, that the money's needed, period. As far as facilities, Probably the same thing. We talked about the 34 million, 35 million,
Correct.
and that's not going to change. And the facilities are going to constantly be the same. They're still going to need roofs. They're still going to need to have things done to it. And so it's time to make a decision and move forward.
I know that sometimes the community will say, well, we're getting $18.5 million from the state.
Mm-hmm.
What if we wait? Do we have the opportunity to get more money? And in my experience, from what I've watched, there are never any guarantees. It's a little bit like playing roulette.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there is a misconception that many people think that the money that you get from the state is equal to the condition of your buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So the older your buildings are, the more money you're going to get, and that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually based upon your community's wealth.
Right. Yeah, your ability to pay is what it's based on. And I think the other thing that you have to remember is the legislators are elected every 2 years. And if the legislators feel that it's not needed, a simple vote, and it's not there.
Sure.
It's gone.
Right.
And so you're kind of playing Russian roulette, right, that the longer you wait, you're also taking a chance that there's not going to be any dollars available. Sure. And you don't know whether it's going to go up or you don't know whether it's going to go down. All of the facts is put together, and I think that the high school facilities, I think the school district, I think Jennifer has done a lot of work to determine that right now the iron is hot. Yes. And it's time to take advantage of this deal and go ahead and start with the construction for new facilities, and then also to get our operating costs to where it should be.
Well, thank you. I want to say how proud I am of our community and how much I appreciate their input, because in January, you were a part of this, we had a master facility plan, and we had over 200 people that attended and gave their input, and it was very comforting as a superintendent to hear how united those 200 people were in their feedback on wanting to do just what you said, that they really do want to look forward and they recognize the state of where we are. Our finance committee looked at all of our documents, all of our financial records, and came to that conclusion and helped make that recommendation to the board.
Yeah, the process wasn't a one-night meeting with the board.
Right.
And this is done correctly. You're looking at getting input from the community, several types of meetings, a lot of planning involved with this, and then with all that documents, putting together the recommendation that you put forward with these two issues. And I think that's key because you're asking the community what should be done based on the facts, and the community's replying back to you. And that's what it should be done.
Right. It's their community. It's their school district. I have the pleasure of being the superintendent, but it's their community and their decision to make. Yes. And so hopefully they'll take a look at the facts and be able to make the best decision that they can in November.
Yeah, and I also want to make sure is those facts are on the websites.
Yes.
And so the facts are easy to get a hold of. It's just simply going online and getting that information. And it's very easy to read. I've been involved with trying to get that down to a readable form and be pertinent questions and answers. And if anybody goes online and sees maybe a question not there, I'm sure that Jennifer would be happy to find an answer.
Absolutely, yes. Just email me or call into the school, and I'll certainly find an answer for anyone. Yes. Well, Jim, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. It means a lot, and I know that it's very helpful to the Pleasant community. So thank you for your participation.
I'm glad to be here.
Thanks.